Hello, 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 everyone. How is everyone doing today? You're listening to Heart with Saima, the podcast show for people searching for that courageous person within us who wants to be inspired by listening to stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm Saima Dillon, your host. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here. Today, the guest is me, Saima. I'm a realtor by profession, a humanitarian at heart. I have a women empowerment group on Facebook called Women of Noor with over 2,800 women. I believe in being authentic. I carry my heart on my sleeve and I follow my heart wherever it takes me. Following my heart results in me making many mistakes. But you know what? They are my mistakes and I own them. Why are we raised to present ourselves as perfect to society? Wouldn't it be amazing if we could just show our authentic self? Experiment, make mistakes. Recognize that mistakes, just like failure, are all part of our growth. It's all part of our life. I started my podcast, Heart to Heart with Saima, as a passion project. It began when I was soul searching, and it ended up changing my life. Crossing roads with wonderful people like Ashok, who I will be bringing on soon, and all my other guests who have come on the show. They've given me strength, valuable insight, and they have given me courage. And I'm so grateful to you. My friends worry about me taking chances in life. They worry about me wanting to publicly display my authenticity because they feel I'll be judged. But you know what? Taking chances, being myself, it frees my soul. It enables me to live with myself. It gives me peace, and believe it or not, it brings me closer to having a heart to heart connection with my daughters. And without waiting anymore, let's dive right in and let me bring Ashok on. Hello, Ashok. How are you?
Good evening, Saima.
Good evening to you. And usually when you come on my show every first Tuesday of the month, and you come on, and usually it's you who I am asking all these questions, and you're educating me, and you are enhancing my field and my vision of knowledge. And today the show is just going to be a little bit different, where you're actually going to take over as the host, and I am here to share my journey of my new beginning, which I feel that's what it is for me. It's a new beginning.
So I think it's important for us to realize that when we talk about humans and we talk about relationships, especially when we talk about marriage, we're talking about something that is relatively artificial. What I mean by that is that humans invented marriage. It wasn't given to us by nature.
Yeah.
It was given to us by civilization. And the purpose of marriage is many, many fold. But maybe I'll start with this, Saima. And you don't have to answer any questions if they feel too personal, okay? So let's put some barriers down here. But why did you get married? What were your expectations as to why get married at all?
It was our culture. Growing up, it was just I think we are just grown up with this. This is instilled in us that we are growing up as women to eventually get married. And I think that's where it comes in. I grew up in Pakistan, and when I did my O levels, and then I did my A levels, and after I finished my A levels in Karachi, my brother had just the older brother. He's much older than me, and he had gotten married. And I went, and he had finished his master's here at UT Arlington in Arlington, Texas. And I went and I asked my dad. I was like, okay, my brother's finished. Can I just go to the US for studies? And my dad was just like, don't you want to get married? I was like, no, I don't want to get married. I would love to go. And my dad's second question was, but you don't even enjoy studying and you want to go to the US and study. And I was like, I thought it was an adventure and I was ready for one. I was like, no, I don't want to get married, although that's what the culture is, that it's we are being raised, this certain ideology, these certain things which every Pakistani man is supposedly looking for: fair complexion, women, needs to be this, needs to be that. There's a huge criteria, a huge list of things that is the norm that they want. And to a big extent, I did not even conform to that norm because, I am not fair skinned. I am very tall. I'm 5'9", and all these things. And I was always made to feel that I felt it in society, right? Especially the color of the skin. Of course, I think that needs to be a completely different topic for another day, but that's what it was instilled in me. But then I came here, and when I came here, and in a couple of years, I met my husband at UT Arlington.
Where is here, by the way? Because some people may not know where here is.
What was that, Ashok?
Where is here? Some people
Here is Dallas. So I'm based in Dallas, and I met him at UT Arlington, and he had already graduated. He, at that time, was in Hollywood. He wanted to get a break in the films, and he spent quite some time in Hollywood. And he had just returned from Hollywood, and he was actually not even a student at UT Arlington. He was using the gym over there when I met him. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it was.
But let me just point out something. There is really no culture,
yes,
that doesn't encourage people to get married.
Yes.
There's some cultures that force people to get married against their will.
Yeah.
And there's really no culture that says marriage is not an expected outcome, certainly by adulthood. And I would say that in North America, at least from my opinion, marriage is not necessary or essential for someone to have a full life.
Yeah.
So if a woman or a man choose not to marry, it doesn't mean they don't have relationships, but they don't have a binding legal arrangement with somebody else to have marriage. And that person can still have what we would consider a full marriage. But the question remains, because your answer essentially is that you succumbed to social pressure to marry.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
And so, again, I don't want to get too personal and pry. Was love involved in your marriage at all?
Yes. Yes, it definitely was. In fact, I'm from Pakistan. My ex-husband now, it feels so strange to even say that after so many years of being together, but he is from India. And so not only as you can see, I don't follow any norms. I just don't do what the masses do. He was from India, and so it was. But we were very fortunate. I am very blessed with amazing parents. His parents were wonderful about it. His family, I love all of them. They love me. Literally, as of this evening, his sister messaged me, and she was like, we love you, and that you're part of our family, and you will always be part of our family.
Where did you guys meet?
So we met at UT Arlington. We met at the gym in UT Arlington, where I was there for a class, and I was leaving after a class, and I was sitting outside and, waiting for my ride to come and pick me up. And he was using the gym, went in and out a few times. And so, a good looking, tall, dark, handsome guy. And so that's how we met. And then we, kept bumping into each other at the university.
Again, Saima, I don't want to push this, but did he come to you and said, hello, let's get married? Or did you go to him and say, hello, let's get married?
That is a bit of a difficult question, because obviously it's something that evolved over time. And it's something which, that's what my parents wanted. So they were, I had pressure to, get married. And then, you know, he knew that that's what my parents were wanting me to do. And so it kind of, there was just it wasn't how it is clear cut over here where the guy just goes and proposes to the girl. It
No,
was,
I understand that, but I again, another question that might be too prying here.
yeah.
How old were you when this happened?
How old was I? I think I could have been 22, 22 when I met him, and then 23. So somewhere between 22, 24.
So my point in asking that I'm going to say, and again, we can have a conversation about this because I think it's really interesting for the audience to hear. But I don't think a 22-year-old knows
Yes.
what they're getting into when they're getting into a significant relationship that might end up in a marriage.
Yes.
For the next 30 or 40 or 50 years of their
Yes.
life. I don't think they can conceive of that.
They
don't
cannot.
they don't even know what they're doing next year at school,
Yeah.
let alone what they're going to be doing with the rest of their life, and the issue of having children, the issue of having a family, buying property, working on your career, sharing your life with somebody else.
Yeah.
At 22, I mean, I'm sure you're a wonderfully intelligent, mature person at 22, but no offense, you may not have been able to conceive of the fullness.
Absolutely. And I did not.
Okay.
I did not. And especially in retrospect now, when I look back and I think, I definitely wasn't. It just, I don't.
When did you realize
what I was doing?
When did you realize, oh my gosh, what have I done?
So that's when it hit me real hard. Was 2019. Was literally my birthday. It was July 12th. And it was my birthday in 2019. And I was like, oh my God, so many years have gone by. I just felt that I just felt my world crashing. I just felt like, what has happened? Where am I? What have I done? Where's my life? We had already reached that point where we were disconnected, and at that point, and that had happened quite some time ago, but I was just so busy running. I was just so busy running with my children. I was so busy taking care of the house. In 2016, we took a business hit, and he lost his business. That had a huge impact on our family. It impacted our family drastically. There were so many things which came out of it. Emotional, there was a financial impact, there were so many things which kind of just started, and it all just hit me in 2019.
Saima, so let's not get ahead of ourselves, because we're talking about the end of the relationship. I think that's very useful.
Yeah.
And what you're telling me is very useful to help to understand. But I really think, especially for younger people who are watching, is that if you and I were going to make a boat together, we want the boat to be able to sail and not sink.
Yeah.
We'd also want to be able to move. And if the boat doesn't sail and it doesn't float, we have a problem. Now, when people are starting a marriage, how old were you when you got married?
I think I was 24.
24.
Yes.
Again, and I'm sure you were a very intelligent and mature woman at 24, but do you feel that you knew what you were getting into vis-a-vis creating something with your wonderful ex-husband, who was also building a boat with you that was supposed to float for the next, well, really for the rest of your lives?
The first year of marriage was extremely difficult.
Can you tell us why? Is that okay to tell?
So it's now long time ago. But I remember the first year of marriage being very difficult because, like you said, I was just clueless. I got married, and just such extreme backgrounds. We were two very different people, two different people coming from very different backgrounds. I was coming from a place where I was, where I was the only daughter. Um, I came to the US and learned how to. I was with my personal trainer this morning, and he was making fun of me. He was like, "Usually, this is the land of opportunities, but you came from Pakistan. You came here. You didn't even know how to boil rice, and I didn't. I had just never done anything. I didn't even know how to boil rice. So." Coming from that place, I was here as a foreign student. I was my parents, cherished, and I still am to this day. My parents' cherished daughter, and there's nothing my parents, even till today, there's nothing they would not do for me. I'm so blessed to have such amazing parents. But coming from there, and my parents had paid for my tuition, and I was a foreign student, and all of that. But first year of marriage, the changes, the expectations, it was just he had been struggling in Hollywood when he had returned. So we were both at that point where he decided to go back to school, and the jobs and the journeys. Was just finishing my education. Yeah, then he finished, and then I started working. I was supporting us. He started going to do his master's in information systems. There were a lot of I think one of the biggest mistakes that I made, that I made this big mistake of thinking that it's okay to ask people to change for you. And that was a big mistake, because when you get married to someone, when you decide to spend your life with someone, you should accept them for exactly who you are. There should be yes, you try to build your lives together, but you should not have all these expectations of that person becoming someone who would fit into your lifestyle. You should, when you meet someone, if that person is someone very different than who you are, and we both were very different people, you have to accept the person for exactly who they are.
Well, my way of saying that, Saima, and I fully agree with you, I think you're saying a lot of truth here, is, and this kind of a rule that I have in my marriage, is you have to want to be married every day. Because you change a tiny little bit every day. You change quite a bit every year. You change quite a lot. You change every 10 years and every 20 years. So in my marriage to my amazing wife, who I met when I was 26, she was 23, just children.
Yes.
We were blind with love. We're still blind with love, but it's 35 years later.
Yeah.
But the point is that you have really no idea. You have to almost remarry each other every day. And what you're describing, and if I'm wrong in saying this, please let me know, but what you're describing is that you were absolutely shocked and surprised and almost numb with the beginning of your marriage, because you really weren't prepared for the sheer magnitude of what this experience was. And you had no experience to really help you with this. And because you're such a powerfully individualistic person as a human being, you suddenly had to share your ideals, your sense of yourself in your life with somebody else, as he did with you. And that constant negotiation of, do we do this? Do we do this? And constantly trying to find the median where your couple relationship can exist, because you have two individuals
Yeah.
trying to build a connection with each other. You don't have to be completely connected, because that can be what we call codependency.
Yeah.
But you have this incredible independence to yourself. And I'm wondering if marriage, in fact, for you, felt like a threat to your absolute sense of self.
It actually, it didn't, because I was still young. I was still trying to figure out. I mean, I did have to change a lot, my thought process, a lot of things, but then so did he. And I'm not going to talk about anything from his perspective. I am not the kind. I don't like to stand there and even be this, this victim, or feel that, something horrifying was done to me. I am going, because I feel that, as strong of an individual that I am, if he wouldn't have given me all the space that I needed to be able to grow, I mean, I don't think we would have gone, we would have reached, I mean, we would have been together all these years.
What I'm trying to do, though, if you'll let me reveal my plan here, is the evolution of the ideal of who we are.
Yeah.
So it strikes me that you started out with a tremendous amount of ideal as to who you are. And you get into this thing called marriage, and suddenly you're in a prison.
Yes.
And you have to want to be in that prison for the rest of your life. And then suddenly there's children to look after, there's finances to look after, there's career to look after. And the ideal of yourself gets further and further and further away until you actually begin to lose yourself. And you think, where have I gone?
Yeah.
Where have I gone? And then, as you mentioned, in 2019, suddenly you're thinking, where have I gone? I can't let myself disappear.
Yeah.
And so the ideal of yourself comes back.
Yeah.
Is this true?
It is. And especially because, like you said, I mean, at the age of, 22, 24, I was clueless. I mean, yes, I married because that's what I was supposed to do, and I had no problems with it. But then everything, the way life started happening, and and we started building. We started adjusting and doing the compromising, and started building our home and our livelihoods together. And but we were two very different people from the beginning, very different people. And sometimes that's okay. But I think our, we started getting further and further apart. And, then in 2001, just after 9/11, we had just we before that we had been working. We bought a house. We got involved in a business. It was a huge business. We got involved in the business, and then 6 months after we closed, 9/11 happened, and my daughter had been born in May. 9/11 happened in September. We closed on this business, which was, a 1.5 million. We had 30 people working in that business. And then 9/11 happened, and it just kind of just shattered us, because we could not sustain. We could not sustain the business. We could not sustain our incomes. We could not sustain, it was just a huge blow. We had, as different backgrounds as we were coming from, but we were still trying to make a life and to move forward. But when 9/11 happened, and it just shook the whole business, and it just threw everything out of balance, it was, we couldn't sustain the business. And I think right then our life started to just, they crumbled. They went in different directions. So
Saima, I want to make a point here. And I don't want this to sound like criticism to you or your ex-husband, okay? But sometimes when a couple are in a relationship, things happen. It could be a hurricane that removes your house. It could be your business is lost. It could be the loss of a child. It could be an accident, or it could be a health change. Some couples stay together when there's an external event, and some couples don't make it. So then I look at the glue that's holding that couple together. How strong, how resilient is that relationship? And what I'm wondering, again, I don't want this to sound negative to either you or your ex-husband. I know you're good people, but I'm wondering, was there an issue with the glue that you had with each other in the first place?
I think before we got involved in that business, we were building. We were building our lives together. One step, one day, one thing,
Mhm.
jobs. I graduated. I was working. I had a good job. He graduated. He started working.
Mhm.
But I think so. I think we were doing fine from my perspective. I don't know about him. And but when we lost the business, he completely shattered, and he just fell apart. And I, in 2004, then my second daughter was born, and she was born in October, and a week before she was born, I got my real estate license.
Mm.
And I started, she was born, and I started practicing real estate. And he still hadn't regained his balance at
Mm.
that time. And I started working, and so right there, I started doing real estate. I started doing well. He was still trying to get a grasp on himself and the loss and the magnitude of everything, that had happened at that point. And I think, at this point, when I look back and I think about it, that's like 20 years ago. But at this point, when I think that's the point that we started. We started getting, more and more distant.
So there's three entities when people are in a marriage. There's your ego, there's your husband, your partner's ego, and the ego of the couple.
Yeah.
That the ego that you develop as a couple. And we know this because my wife and I talk about this all the time. We're pretty strong personalities. So if we have a good fight, it can be a lot of fun. We resolve it. And we resolve it for a number of reasons. We want to feel calm inside ourselves, but we also want the ego of the marriage to feel calm. And when we have our friends over, who are maybe married couples as well, we see our friends, our married couple friends, as one unit as well, like John and Mary, or Bill and Samantha. These are just made up names, of course, but when we see them as we're going to see this one couple, and hopefully we see them as a couple. What I'm hearing from your story is that there's issues with the couple that happened at the very beginning, perhaps because of cultural blindness. So the sense of just get pushed into the situation, you don't really know what it is. And then want the wake-up call to all of the responsibilities of what a marriage is about. And then disaster after catastrophe, 9/11, loss of business, shame, humiliation. And then you kind of rise from the ashes. This powerful person you've been your whole life, you get a job, you're successful, you're doing well, and you're starting to feel good about yourself. So your ego is getting better. His might be still struggling, and the ego of the marriage is also in a lot of trouble at that point. Can you see what I'm saying?
It was. And especially now, so many years down the road, I look back, and if I think, it's just so much more clear, versus it was at that time. And when I started working, and I started doing my real estate, at that time I had a newborn, and I had a 3.5-year-old.
It's very busy for you.
And I would put the girls in the car and I would be, driving them and taking them to work and whatever. And throughout everything, my huge support that I got was from my mother, who literally came and, she knew that we had taken this financial hit and I was trying to, get back on my feet. So my mom was helping me, but the kids were with me, the responsibilities were there. And I think right then at that point it just took a huge, I perhaps to a certain extent maybe I forgot about him, as because I still had the business. Because we, as realtors, we are self-employed. It's a commercial, it's a commission-based business. People think that, oh, realtor doing just amazing and, just larger than life. But the cost, the price, the hard work that goes into a commission-based sales business, I worked and worked and worked, and I had my kids, and I think somewhere in that process,
I think what you're referring to, Saima, if I can just summarize my thoughts about this, is that a lot of women, especially women in North America, are multitasking. They're multitasking their marriage, they're multitasking their career, and they're multitasking as a parent.
And you're taking care of as a Southeast Asian, or I would even say Asian, we are taking care of the house as well.
The house, and sometimes even your own parents.
Yes.
Or in-laws, right? So the amount of responsibility on a woman in that story can be completely overwhelming.
And there was a lot of responsibility.
So I want to ask you a question. It might be a little personal. You don't have to answer it, but were you feeling resentment at that point?
I'm not sure if resentment, perhaps I was. I've never really gone back to that place and revisited that frame of mind, because I look forward and I just keep moving forward in life. But now that you're asking, there was me putting that pressure on him that, hey,
Let me rephrase the question a little bit to help you, okay? Because I don't want anyone to get bashed as a result of this. If I could get your 22-year-old self to come in the room when you were in 2019, when you were completely disillusioned with everything, and sit her down and say, look what's happened to you, what would she say to you?
Wow, that's a very loaded question, and I think it would tell the 20-year-old to make some different choices.
So I think it is a very loaded question as well. But I think what's really interesting, and this is how I got this conversation going, is it's very hard to know where we're going to end up when we're 22. It's hard when we're 32. I'm 61. I still don't know where I'm going to end up. I'm still working on it. But with time and with a little bit of life experience, we can begin to have some sense of predicting what's going to happen. And this is what doesn't happen when we're 22. And when I ask you if there's some resentment here, again, I'm not trying to put feelings into you that you don't have. But my guess, if I met you at 22, that you were a real powerhouse of a person. Intelligent, tall, exotic, living in a different country, at the gym, working out, just really, really being powerful as a human being. And then suddenly, years later, you look at yourself and saying, where's my power gone? Where's my power gone? And whether resentment fits that, or disillusionment, or just surprise, like, what happened to me? I can't find me anymore. I've seemed to have disappeared.
Yeah.
And I think this, sit in my office for a couple of months. This is a very common syndrome for women once they've been involved in a long relationship that might begin to take away the energy that they used to have when they were younger, and they miss that energy. And I know that raising children takes a lot of energy. I know that managing a career, especially a self-employed career, which I have as well, takes a lot of energy. But I think there's tremendous pressure on women to look your best, dress up, get your makeup on, put on a nice outfit, and go out. And someone says, when did you get your nails done last? And you just want to cry, because there's so much pressure to get it all right, especially when you add on the influences of cultural issues, cultural expectations, and the shame of having trouble in your marriage. And I think what happens to so many women is that they suffer, and they suffer in silence. And I think that's why it's so powerful, Saima, that you're sharing this information.
And the irony is that I actually, I've kind of this has been a very difficult year for me, and as difficult as the year has been, I told my parents in March, and then I just handled everything on my own. I have my brothers who are here, and they were all my friends, brothers. They were all willing to be there. But I've just become so used to taking care of things on my own that I did not involve anyone in any of the process. And I just handled it all myself. And
would you recommend that to somebody?
Well, I'm not sure, Ashok. It's a difficult. I will tell you one thing that 2020 did for me. 2020 quarantined me in the four walls of my house with my daughters. My ex-husband was there at that time. So we were all quarantined in the house. And I started my healing journey in 2020 when I was quarantined in the house. And all the noises were blocked out, right? So I could hear myself. I could hear my own intuition. I could feel what my soul wanted. I could hear my heart, my mind. It was all me. It was my decisions in tune with myself. And because what I see in 2021, when finally we were coming out of quarantine and we were starting meeting people again, and I was meeting with my friends again, and it was so much, everyone was scared, and my friends were scared for me, and all these thoughts which were coming through, it was just, I couldn't hear anyone else's. I didn't want to, because their thoughts were conflicting with what my heart was telling me to do. And I was following my heart. And I was at peace with myself. But whenever I would meet people, they would put me in conflict, because then I could not hear myself anymore, because our thoughts were not in sync.
So what you're describing, from what I think you're saying, is that you have your inner wish for yourself and then the expectations of people around you.
Yeah.
And somehow your inner wish can fade away, and then you have to bring it back again.
Yeah.
Because that is really the most important thing that's driving your life.
Yes.
Other people will have expectations, and they can be useful and helpful. Maybe it's good advice, or maybe it's completely wrong.
Yeah.
Because they don't live inside you.
Yeah.
You live inside you.
Yeah.
And this is the compromise that people make when they get married, which is such a difficult thing to explain to a 22-year-old person. Is that when you get married, you have to compromise. If you don't want to make that compromise, if you're not prepared to make that compromise every day, you will eventually alienate yourself from yourself. and you will wake up one day and saying, "Where am I?"
Yeah.
And it is a common thing, and I think it's one of the reasons why people have so much difficulty with marriage, because you should not lose yourself in your marriage. If anything, you should gain yourself in your marriage. You should become more. And
Yeah.
not all marriages work. And so I think it's a difficult decision, but it's often the right decision. If you can jump into that ocean and pull yourself out and save yourself from being lost forever.
And that's what I did. Um, and I already said that I'm not going to discuss. Life is not black and white; it's gray. So I'm not going to go into any personal details because there's no need. But um, when I was drowning, it was actually my husband at that time who helped pull me out of that space because he knew what was happening to me, and he still wants the best for me.
And I'm sure you want the best for him as
I
well,
do.
because
I,
I'm sure you both care about each other.
and we do.
But the essence of the marriage isn't the same at all.
It's
And
not.
let me ask you another personal question that you don't have to answer. If you went back to that gym and saw somebody new, do you think you'd ever consider marriage again?
Um, like you're taking me back to the 22-year-old.
No, you're at the
Oh,
gym
now?
now, right?
Oh,
You've gone
now?
back to the gym. You're at the gym. You look over, you see some fantastic looking person
Oh,
who's looking at you too and thinking, "Wow," would you ever consider marriage again?
I don't have any problems with with considering marriage again. It's just right now I just feel that and I discussed this with my daughters, and you know just as I had all kinds of independence, but I just feel that with the divorce I can breathe. I've just been let out of a cage and I can just fly. I've got my wings back, and
Let me make my point really clear, Simon. Is marriage the problem? The institution of marriage?
no, I don't know. I think two people who should be in sync with each other.
Exactly.
When you look down 10 years down the road, your goals should be the same. With me and now my ex-husband, our goals were different. We were two very different people. He was a yogi. He was content in a very simple life. I was the opposite. He had never left the U.S. until he left for Pakistan to go to Pakistan for the wedding. I had traveled the world and I wanted to see more of the world. And, on our honeymoon, I took him on this huge adventure through Asia. So, we spent these 2 months just traveling, and it was all like I was the navigator. I was doing all the planning, and I think that was one of the things which burnt me out, was the fact that I started as a navigator, and throughout the whole duration I stayed the navigator, and and then I was just so depleted of my energy. I took this solo trip to Egypt in 2019, and I told the tour guide, okay, he was like, where do you want to go? I was like, okay, we'll pick two cities, give me my options. And I was like, okay, these two cities, Luxor and Aswan. And he put the whole thing together. I gave him my credit card. I landed at the airport. He had a sign. He was standing there with my name. It was the best trip that I think I can remember for me, because for once, someone else, even though I had paid him, he was a paid guide, but someone else planned the trip.
I think, Simon, that is a beautiful metaphor for a good relationship with somebody. Is that where you both share the control, the navigation, the direction, and the course of the relationship. As long as there's some symmetry
Yeah.
in your experience with each other, so that you can keep that glue, the togetherness together. And then when you need to separate, my wife and I sometimes take separate vacations. I'm a hugger, so she sometimes has to put up with me that way. But I understand that sometimes we need a little bit of time apart, not because we're not getting along. We love each other very much, but just having a little bit of time apart.
Yeah.
And when we come back together, we can share our experiences, but not feel too shackled, like handcuffs to each other all the time. And from my experience, this is vital to make a relationship work, where you have enough room to breathe. You don't get lost. You can maintain your own goals and aspirations and inspiration. But at the same time, when your partner says they'd like to do something, if you'd like to do with, okay. If you'd like to do not with, okay. So that you can have that breathing room in the relationship. And so you can share the journey together, but sometimes it veers off a bit and then sometimes it comes back together again. This is a healthy breathing relationship. And what you're describing, I think what you're describing is that you never quite found that, and that you got lost, and that now that you found yourself, you'll never be lost again, right?
I mean, I don't intend to get lost again. I hope not.
I don't think you will get lost again. I think you've learned so much. I think you've become wise to yourself and what relationships are about. I think you're still part of a family. You and your ex are still raising your children as a family. So I think that's, you're still a family.
Yes.
And you have to find what ignites your soul and what ignites your passions in your own way. So that if you could go back to being that 22-year-old girl again, you won't disappoint her this time.
Yeah. And, and that's why everything, most of the things that the way I handled everything, none of my friends understand or understood. I did not want it to fight. I did not want anything to get ugly. I did not. We literally went to the county courthouse and had a notary come in, notarize the documents, took it to the county courthouse. I submitted the documents, made the payment. When I made the payment, it gave me a message which said, "Thank you for shopping with us." And I and I looked at the county clerk and I was like, "Do you realize that your credit card machine says thank you for shopping with us just when I've paid for the fee for filing the divorce?" And I just thought that was just extremely ironical that it's saying thank you for shopping with us. But it was just very, very clean. I did not want to fight. I did not want to do anything which would create chaos for my children. Nothing was more important than my peace of mind. And
that's my point, is that if you can come through an experience like this and find yourself again and be calm in your soul and be content in your soul, then that's a much better place to be than when you were feeling lost or when you were feeling blind and confused as a much younger person, so that you can feel integrated into yourself again and never lose that ever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much at. I touch wood. I'm so fortunate. I'm so. I did not fight, and that's the reason that I'm in a good place. I'm able to do this, and my intention for doing this is simply to tell people that if you have an option to choose peace, choose peace. Because when you fight and you make things ugly, you're not just destroying your own soul, you're destroying the souls of people who are around you. And in my case, those were my children, those were my girls. It was already so difficult for my daughters, everything that was going on. From my perspective, all they saw coming from me was forgiveness. um, I forgave him. I walked away from everything.
But Saima, you also have to forgive yourself
And
so that
and
you can
and I
feel,
did.
and that's really, really key as well to get through what you've been through, so that people can see that even when there's been a marriage that hasn't worked out, there's hope that people can feel comfortable and calm and get along with each other and continue to raise their children, if they have children, in a harmonious way. So that can give hope
Absolutely.
to everybody.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great place to wrap.
Absolutely. It definitely is. And, um, I think the one message that, and the purpose behind doing the podcast and behind putting my story out there is just that there are two things. One is to tell, not just women, men who might be going through it, who might be, hiding and suffering and not wanting to share, that it's okay. It's okay if you marry someone and you reach the end of that threshold where the relationship ends. It's okay for you to find the courage to get up and to keep going. It's okay. And the other thing I want to just again repeat is, if you are able to choose peace, choose peace, because it makes a huge difference in your ability, in your confidence, in your love for yourself, to choose peace and to choose love for yourself and to walk up, to just be courageous, and to so just try to do things without things getting ugly.
Saima, thank you so much for sharing your very powerful story today. And
Thank
I'm
you,
very
Ashok.
sure that people will be inspired and helped by the words that you've given us. Thank you
I
so much.
hope so. I hope so. Well, Ashok, I'm going to remove you from the stream so I can end the show. And thank you so much, Ashok, for. I don't think there would be a better person than you to do this with me. So I'm going to remove you and going to just end the show. So, like I said earlier, the purpose behind the to putting my story out there is to just give people courage, that it's okay. It's okay for you to feel whatever you feel. It's okay for you to feel broken. It's okay for you to try to put your pieces together. It's okay. For what it's worth, it's never too late, or in my case, too early to change the course of life. All the time limits are imposed by us. In reality, to me, they are non existent. Life doesn't need to be time stamped. Whenever life provides you with a speed breaker, you hit your brakes, pause, reassess, make changes or not. But you know what? You keep going. There are no rules. Rules are perception based. The truth is, only you're responsible for your happiness. You can make the best or worse of it. I hope you make the best of it. I hope you give life a chance to sparkle its pixie dust on you. There are no such things as failure. You either win or you learn. I hope you experience feelings you have never felt before. I hope life surprises you every step of the way. I hope you see things which startle you. I hope you meet people who show you life from a different angle. I hope this is an opportunity to live a life you're proud of. If not, I hope you find that inner courage to give life a fresh start, a new beginning, just like me. Once again, thank you so much for carving out the time to hear what was shared on today's podcast. If the show inspired you to take the next step in your journey, reach out to me. Email me at vip@simadillon.com. And of course, if you feel that the podcast can help someone, just take 30 seconds to share the podcast. Your comment, your sharing, it helps us on social media, and I will be so grateful. Thank you for being here, and thank you for watching. This is Saima Dillon signing off.